A new face-to-face with the developers has just landed, so we're going to check out everything that's in our future, including a new civilization coming very soon, PC version in the next month or two. Let's go. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and this video has been sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. Let's get a look at the face-to-face with the developers, which usually has some exciting stuff about the future and the direction of the game, and sometimes players have even jumped in and prevented some things that they did not want to see happen. So let's get a look at this one and see what's in store. First up, welcome back to the Face-to-Face with the Developers, where we answer some of the latest questions or issues that governors are interested in and get to share some of our future plans for Rock. That's why I'm really hyped about this mail every time it comes in. I don't think Esmeralda's prayer is fun. I have a lot to say about this. Let's read the developer response, and let me try to encapsulate, I think, what players feel. We released a new holiday event, Esmeralda's Prayer, during the March holiday period. Now, one thing we're always interested in is exploring new and fun game formats, many of which we get to incorporate into different holiday events to enrich the Rock experience. I will point out that although the way you got the currency included spending and free-to-play things, that was new. The idea of a wheel in this game, although this wheel was a bit more complicated in the way that it worked, is not exactly new. There's no doubt we received a bit of feedback in relation to Esmeralda's Prayer, and we are definitely looking at how to optimize the event going forward based on feedback in later updates. So let me try to explain this player sentiment that the event is not fun, because I actually think it's like much more nuanced than that. And I want to try to explain this from the perspective of a free-to-play player and then also the perspective of a pay-to-win player. And then there's like an in-between space that I'll try to represent, but like I don't really play any account that's in that mid space exactly. So let me walk through this. If you're free-to-play, your unit of measurement, the thing you will always compare to, is the 7,000 gem event where the skin is guaranteed for you. You have control over exactly how many rewards you get. You're actively playing the game is rewarded. And again, the locus of control is on you. And yes, there is some randomness and the amount of points you get every time you cash in, but you can control how much you can farm up for the event. The 7K gem event is amazing, and people like it because they have control over whether or not they actually get the city theme. The problem from a free-to-play perspective with this event, Esmeralda's Prayer, is that you don't have control. You might not get the city theme. And so every time you spin the wheel, it's not fun, it's stressful. And when you get the city theme, it's not rewarding. It's a weird sense of like relief, like, oh, I don't have to be stressed about this thing anymore. It's a very weird dynamic, but given that we have such better things to compare to, I think that's why people feel stressed. Now, a spender, on the other hand, I think has fun doing the wheel. I maxed the wheel by spending, and it just felt like any other wheel that you would do, except you might get really lucky and finish everything early, which was the case for me when I did Esmeralda's Prayer, and I was spending my way through it. So I think the problem, the challenge with the event is that free-to-play players really, really value the city theme. I mean, really everybody does, but especially free-to-play players looking to get that theme. They feel a sense of, I think, stress rather than fun when they're doing this event. So that's my feedback. I don't know exactly how you fix that, but I think that the 7K gem event is like very, very much preferred. And even the other format where there's a premium currency and a secondary currency, like if you really want, you can spend the gems and get the city theme. But with this event, the gem cost was so through the roof, it just wasn't viable. So that would be my feedback on this event. I do actually think putting new events into the game is fun, but I think that sentiment can be explained probably by what I was just describing there of stress and then either relief or frustration based on whether or not you got the city theme. Now, will you be repeating previous holiday events? Yo, am I getting my 7K gem back, the 7K gem event back? Absolutely, thank goodness. I mean, they didn't say absolutely the 7K gem event is coming back, but I think this is, without 100% committing to doing 7K gem event again, they're basically saying they're going to do it again. We maybe focus more on trying to explore original events in this format, but there's no reason to abandon past holiday events that were especially well received. We're definitely going to be releasing all kinds of different game modes during the holiday periods, not just to provide fresh experiences, but also to allow players to familiarize themselves with their favorites. If you'd like more specifics and something of a schedule, please have a look at the announcements for the current version update. So really quickly, if you don't know where the announcements are, I'm on my restart project right now where I actually did get the city theme. I just got lucky. But if we go to the little announcement board, every now and then, if you tap into the notice board here, they do share information in advance. Like sometimes Lucerne Scrolls information comes up in advance. So maybe this is where they're saying we should get a look. Is that what they're saying? Anyways, let's jump back to this note real quick. Will you be involving the king's approval in the 30 governor cross-season migration quota? This is something I predicted would be a problem. It has subsequently become a problem, and let me explain. When they recently changed the migration rules, which is generally the idea that they were changing the rules, I think is very solid. Basically, the problem is that you have large groups migrate back to KVK Season 2 and absolutely dominate all these new players who are like, why am I playing this game? I just got completely raffle stomped by somebody who's been playing for 3 years. It doesn't make any sense. I'm still new. I'm still learning the game. So they said, well, let's pump the brakes on that and limit the number of people that can migrate back to KVK Season 2 and 3, which is great, I think. But the problem is the mechanism by which that happens, because there's a limit to like 30 governors that can do that migration now. But I can just troll you, I think, by sending a farm account to your kingdom, and I can actually pwn your kingdom. The king has absolutely no control over who's coming into the kingdom. And so players are going through this exhaustive effort to find the perfect 30 players that they're going to bring in. You understand, the developers have now created a meta, and the meta is to bring the best 30 players you can possibly find in your kingdom, because you need those 30 players to battle against all the other kingdoms that are getting their 30 players. You see what I mean? You must find the 30 strongest players you can find, because if you don't, the other kingdoms will, and you will get wrecked by those kingdoms with those older players that are really strong. So because that is the meta that has been created, the problem is that if anybody can just migrate in an account and ruin your kingdom's migration chances, it really created a tremendous amount of upset, I think, for players who spent a massive effort finding the perfect 30, and then they couldn't migrate in. And there's nothing anyone could do. They all just got pwned because somebody wanted to troll them and sent a bunch of farm accounts into their kingdom. I mean, it's just... And the thing is that you can control the migration limit of your kingdom. Like, you go to your lost temple and you can control that. But my understanding is that even accounts that were like under 25 million power were counting toward this quota. I could be wrong. But if that is the case, then that is definitely an issue. Here's the immigration section. I mean, you can't just be like, nobody come in. Anyone under 25 million power can pretty much always come into your kingdom if your kingdom's open to migration. And I think that's how people were getting wrecked. I think what people are requesting, and I feel is, as someone who's been king before, is what I would want as well, is like there's a special immigration chances section. And what they're asking for is a section to like approve the people that are coming back. And I think that that is a very understandable and reasonable ask, in my opinion. So hopefully, the developers consider this. What they say is, our concern is that making the king part of this process could lead to unfair outcomes. You know, my sense here is that if you don't like the king, you got to overthrow the king. Okay? And if a kingdom needs to overthrow the king, they got to figure that out by the time that this migration is going to happen. So we're not currently planning to do that, but certainly intrigued by the idea as a whole, and perhaps need more time to really work out the way to best implement this type of change. I really think, and they say if at all, I really think it's absolutely necessary for there to be control about who's coming in. I think it's extremely reasonable, actually, for it to be the king, personally. And I have been king, so I'm biased. But also, if people don't like who the king is, they have to overthrow the king. And that's not weird. I think that's like the whole dynamic of the Lost Temple, and that's part of the fun of the game, actually, is all of that chaos that comes with needing to overthrow the king. So I think that, if anything, it creates desirable drama rather than like a negative thing. And the undesirable experience was just this absolutely catastrophic kind of loss of effort on the part of all these players who spent all this time figuring out who their 30 would be, and then they ended up getting pwned. Can we save Bastion quest refreshes up to 3 or 6 times? Good idea. We'll be looking for such a modification as we plan our next round of changes. I love that. The way this works right now, once you enter Season of Conquest, there are bastions. You do 15 Bastion quests a day. And if you don't like the quest, you can refresh it. You used to not be able to do that, I think at all. I could be wrong. You had to like accept and reject the quest or get rid of it. I forget how it worked before, but it's way better than it was before. But still, you have to wait 10 minutes every time you want to refresh. And so I like the idea of being more respectful of our time and saying, hey, if you haven't refreshed in the last 60 minutes, then you could do 6 refreshes or something. Like, I don't know. You spend a lot of time refreshing to get the perfect quests, and at some point you just give up on it because as much as you want the crystal, it's just like not worth your time. So any convenience there will be much appreciated. I would like to be able to solo challenge the Lohar. So the developers say one of the main designs behind the Lohar event was to give governors another chance to work together, which is why we came up with the current challenge mechanism. However, the reality is Lohar is not quite the opponent he once was to many governors who've now outgrown him and powerful enough to take him down alone. So we're looking at developing more new and interesting challenges going forward, which may be of particular interest to players who want something more from Lohar. You know, I agree with the developers on this one completely, actually. I think the whole point of Lohar's trial, where you summon Lohar and you rally him, is to teach your alliance how to be an alliance together and how rallies work. So I actually think in that regard, Lohar's trial is perfectly fine and shouldn't change. Now, in the late game, obviously, are you even rallying the Lohar's trial necklaces? Like, why are you fighting Lohar? So I think that the Lohar's trial, or not Lohar's trial, but really like the whole event is designed to teach new players rallies. And it does that. I don't think it needs to change. If they added higher levels of Lohar difficulty, I think that would be cool. The next one's kind of exciting. When will you be releasing a new civilization? Yo, that thing we all want to know. Hey, we're way ahead of you. In fact, we're even now ironing out some of the behind-the-scenes complexities involved in the release of a new civilization. Rest assured, it'll come in the next few months, and stay tuned as we drop our first reveals in the rock community soon. I maybe should have started with this, because this is the most hype thing in here. I hope that they are doing some big partnership again with some big brand, like the Viking TV show and the Viking civilization. That was genius. Very well done. It was good marketing, good player experience, and got a ton of people hyped about the game. And the commanders were, well, Bjorn Ironside's really cool. Poor Ragnar, man. Ah, God. Ragnar Lothbrok. Anyways, here's what you need to know about new civilizations. Actually, you should be saving all of your gold keys. All of your gold keys. Unless you have an urgent need to spend them, like for Lucerne Scrolls, which I will spend some of my gold keys to make sure I get those quests done. You should absolutely, 100%, no questions asked, save your gold keys, because almost certainly, just like we've seen with previous new civilization releases, you get a gold key commander that's going to show up here, and you're going to want to be able to get them from the gold chests. So if I go to the reward list here, and that's the equipment crate, but there we go. Right? Like, they added commanders to the game, like Ishida, and I think Sundok was added at one point, and Mehmed was added, and he was added with a new civilization, by the way. Ragnar was added with a new civilization. Mulan was added. Like, they add these commanders to gold keys, so you are going to want to save your gold keys so that when the civilization's epic and gold or legendary commander are available, you can get a bunch of them from here, and presumably you'll be able to dump a bunch of universals into those commanders. But I will say, to curb your expectations for how good they will or won't be, because pretty much, I don't know. I mean, actually, Mehmed's really good. As a gold key commander who came with a civilization, he's actually really good. Ragnar is not. Mulan is actually really good. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a 50-50 as to whether or not the commander is going to be someone like you want to use. But I suspect it's still going to be in line with like gold, really legendary commander quality. One thing I will say that we need to be on the lookout for is that the new commander might actually be good enough to use in like a main murder ball, but there is a very high probability that they actually add a museum buff with the commander right away. And you may think like, why would they release a commander and immediately have a museum buff for them? For those that don't know, when you enter KVK Season 4 and beyond, you get a building called the Museum. The Museum has buffs in here designed to balance early game commanders with end game commanders. And I think there is a very, very high likelihood that the legendary commander that comes with the new civilization will be balanced in line with these commanders and will immediately have a relic available in order to make it balanced-ish with endgame commanders, or at least in line with the rest of these gold key commanders and their buffs here, once you get to Season of Conquest. So all that to say, if you're in Season of Conquest, consider saving up for one relic commander, both the exhibit coins and the relics, because you're going to want those gold keys to unlock them, and if there is a relic, like, you're going to want to have that in order to really be able to use the commander if it's good, and, like, maybe it will be, and maybe it won't be. Hard to say. Could we automatically buy the newspaper for 1,000 gold rather than having to do it manually? So here's what they say. The idea behind forcing governors to manually get the newspaper is we want to cultivate a kind of habit or ritual of getting the newspaper. If so, making it automatic would defeat the purpose. So people have all kinds of rituals. How do I feel about a mobile game trying to make a ritual out of my life? I mean, the reality is that Reset lands and I do a whole bunch of things at Reset. One of those things that I do is load up the newspaper, and usually I remember. And almost never do I actually read anything that's in the newspaper. But I don't know, maybe they're trying to harken back to the day when you actually got a physical newspaper on your driveway, and to figure out what had happened in the world over the last 24 hours, you had to open up the newspaper. I don't know. I don't have a strong feeling about this either way. Sure, it'd be a convenience, but of all the things that they could work on, like, this is not on my list of things that's on my mind at all. When are you releasing the PC version of Rise of Kingdoms? The ROC PC version is really, really important, not least because of the great added convenience it will offer players. We're happy to report we're putting the finishing touches on the PC version now, which should be ready for release within a month. Let's freaking go. We've also lined up a number of in-game exclusive events to really highlight and accentuate the PC ROC release. You can follow us to get the latest updates. Presumably that's follow us on social media. This is actually amazing. Will I play the PC version? I'm going to need to see if it solves lag problems for me. If it does, then I'm going to be playing PC instead of on the iPad. And the thing is that there were times in my last KVK, I mean, there just were, where I couldn't play. I mean, it was just like too laggy to play skillfully, and it was frustrating. And so if the PC version can solve some of those problems, then I will absolutely, no questions asked, have to adopt the PC version and get good with it, because it's just, I need, when I've got 7 marches on the field, man, I need to be able to control them and really know what I'm hitting. And if I can't do that on an iPad when it's really, really crowded or congested in an area of the map, like, and the PC version solves that, that is going to make me very happy. I'm looking forward to that. This has been another Face-to-Face with the Developers. If you have any other suggestions related to the game, we welcome all Gunners to leave your feedback via the in-game community or customer service. Wow, no link this time. That's really interesting. I am surprised. I don't know how they're going to filter their way through all the feedback to customer service, but that's how you give them feedback. The in-game community board, which, by the way, is over here. You smash the rock button right over there with the, it's a backwards K? Oh, God. That's the community board. I mean, it's symmetric. I get the design of it. You can go there. That's the in-game community stuff. Or you can go to somewhere in the help section over here, settings, and I guess you go to customer service and give feedback. If you enjoyed this video, throw a like on here and consider subscribing. I've got more crazy stuff related to our KVK coming up in the next couple days. And until next time, you have fun, smash your enemies, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this Face-to-Face with the Developers.